Hello friends, welcome to C# Intermediate to Advanced tutorial. Now you are watching part 5 of the video C# NotifyIcon control. So in this video we will set up the timer component so that we can track the time elapsed. So as already told, user will type the seconds here. So for example, user will type 10, then they will click track seconds elapsed and they can click this close button. So what happens, the timer will run and it will keep on showing the how many seconds elapsed after clicking this button. So the number will go like 9, 8, 7, 6 like that. It will go till 0 and this will get updated every 1 second. So for that we will use a timer component and we will update this. Alright, so in this video we will add the timer component and set its properties. These are all the decks from a previous part. First we learned the basics, then we learned about the example which we are developing in the videos. Next we learned, that means in the previous video we set up our NotifyIcon control and we set all these 6 properties. Now we will learn about the timer. So the timer component raises an event called tick event. So this tick event will get fired periodically. Alright, so the tick event will fire periodically. In our example, we will use this tick event to track the elapsed time. So the component will raise the event at a periodic interval. So 1 second or in 2 second interval, it raises the tick event and we can provide a handler for that tick event. And inside that handler we can write some code. That means when a tick event is fired periodically for every 1 second, then for every 1 second the piece of code written in the handler will run. So that's what here we are saying. So in our example we will use this to track the elapsed time. That means we will handle the tick event. Inside that we will do the update of the label. So as already told here, user will type something, then they will click the track seconds elapsed, and once this button is clicked we will enable the timer and the timer will call the tick event handler periodically. So the periodic interval to fire the tick event is set via the interval property. So interval property and tick event, these two are important. So this property takes the time in milliseconds. That means if you specify interval as 2000, that means you are specifying 2000 milliseconds. So if I cancel this, it will be 2 seconds. That means the timer component will produce the tick event every 2 seconds. That means if there is a handler for that tick event or subscriber to the tick event, and that subscriber, that means the event handler, will called for every 2 seconds. Then there is one more property called enable or enabled. So by setting true or false to this enable property, we can enable or disable the timer. So when timer is enabled, it will produce the tick event, and the tick event it will be produced at a periodic interval specified by this interval property, right? So this enable stuff, we will enable this property. Let's call this as 1. We will set this as a true here, and using the context menu, when user clicks exit, or even if the countdown is elapsed, let's say the user pressed 10, given 10 here, when the timer is running and this countdown is reached 0, that time also we will make use of this property. But this time, instead of setting it to true, we will set it to false once timer is elapsed. So the timer won't run after the time is elapsed, and at the same time we will show the tooltip when it is in the iconed state. That means when the application is staying in the system tree, we need to show the tooltip also. Alright, that's all here in the timer component. Tick event, interval, enable, we will access this at runtime. Yeah, that's all. Now we will go to the demo. So here is our example. So in the last video we set up the notify icon control, and these are all the properties we set. Now timer is available under the components group, so drag and drop the timer component to the form. Likewise you have to do. So since we already dropped it, the timer will be here. Next we set name for this property timer, then interval we set it as 100 millisecond. That means in a second the timer will produce a tick event 10 times. So if we have the property 1000, then it is 1000 milliseconds. That means the tick event will run for every 1 second. Now I'm cutting down this. That means it will run 10 times in a second. And if you see the enabled property, by default it is false. That means when we want to run the timer, we have to set this property to true at runtime. So we will set that to true during the click event of this button. So that's all here. The timer component is ready. So just a drag and drop, then set the timer name and set the interval to 100. That's all here in this example. Thank you for watching. Bye.